Well, first, my name is Bob Kraft, and I want to introduce you, Pat Ackerman, as a person who has done a deep dive into Voyager and the VGX cryptocurrency. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, yep.
And I'm going to ask you a number of questions now about Voyager and VGX. The first one is, you have no affiliation with Voyager. Is that correct?
Correct. Just an independent voice.
Just an independent voice. Voyager is a publicly traded company with the symbol VGRVF. It has a cryptocurrency token with the symbol VGX. What's the difference in buying one or the other?
Yeah, so the ticker is actually VYGVF. So just a correction on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the stock is, if you think about normal equities, it tends to be about ownership of the company. And when you have ownership of the company, then you're actually ownership of revenue and cash flow of the company. So that's what the stock is really representing and the value of the stock. VGX is actually their utility token, which is representative of kind of their loyalty program that they're getting ready to launch, which gives you benefits and engagement on the platform itself. And the value is actually derived from user growth. And as users grow and more people want to use the token for platform engagement and benefits, then so will the value grow, VGX.
So they both can grow, they both could go down. They are somewhat independent of one another.
Somewhat, but I would say they're still tied to each other, right? Because even AUM, which is assets under management, which is a big driver for the stock because it generates revenue, whether that's interest or trading revenue. Also somewhat is tied to VGX because the more AUM or assets under management on the platform, the more people can participate and buy VGX as part of their utility and loyalty program.
So someone who doesn't really want to dive into the crypto world could probably at their stock exchange buy the VYGVF stock, which I think is on the over-the-counter exchange, and really get in on what we're talking about today.
Correct. Yep.
So there are two ways to invest at this point.
There is. Yep.
Now, Voyager, as I think of it, is really an app. I use an app to get there that allows anyone to purchase, deposit, and sell cryptocurrencies. Is that correct?
That's correct. Really, one thing I'd correct with you on is actually it's a brokerage. It's not an exchange.
Yes.
So it's a brokerage, which is similar to, let's say, a TD Ameritrade or Fidelity, which offers stocks, right? And so you can, as part of that, they source up to, I think it's 20 or 30 different exchanges to try to find you the best price to purchase, sell, hold your cryptocurrencies. It also allows you to gain interest, which is a unique benefit of Voyager, which a lot of platforms don't allow.
And I think that's key because you remind me of that. It's a broker. And so I think that is a unique thing about Voyager is that you're not just buying a cryptocurrency sort of at the whim of that company, whichever one it is, that exchange, but they are finding you the best price at many different exchanges and giving you that price. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Great.
And sometimes they'll give you the set price and then they'll try to beat it, which is a lot of what they try to do in their algorithms. Yep. So.
Yeah, one of the things that I've had some concern about in trying out a number of different exchanges is when you look around, for example, you'll see the price at your exchange where you're going to buy something is one number. And if you just look somewhere else quickly, it can be not hugely different, but it can be different. And of course, these are companies trying to make money. And so one of the ways they can do that is by have higher pricing when you buy a crypto, lower pricing when you sell a crypto.
Correct. Yep.
Voyager is really trying to avoid that. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, they're trying to find you the best price and give you the best experience. And it's perfect for retail clients. They also have institutional clients as well, but it's perfect for the retail investor because they don't have to go, have 5 or 6 different apps. They can all kind of go to one and find the best price.
Wonderful. I have heard of a thing called a DEX, which I think is decentralized exchange.
Yep.
Is Voyager a DEX, a decentralized exchange?
It is not. Remember, it's a brokerage. And so an example of a DEX would be Uniswap or some of these that are decentralized exchanges, as you mentioned. So it is not a DEX.
And again, the important thing about that is it is bringing together perhaps some DEXs and other exchanges to get you the best price.
Correct. Yep.
How are Voyager and VGX alike and then different from Binance and its BNB, Crypto.com and its CRO coin, Coin Metro and its XCM coin?
Yeah, they're all roughly are solving the same thing, I guess. Now, I would say there is some differences. So as an example, Binance BNB, they've kind of positioned that now, initially started as a utility token. Now they positioned it more as a competitor to Ethereum. So there's additional levels within the comparison of those two coins that makes them a little bit different. But there's still an aspect of utility around the platform for BNB and for Binance, but there's some differences there. Crypto.com and CRO is pretty comparable. There's different benefits of each one of them. Now, I would say they're roughly along the same track. They're both utility tokens. They're both trying to offer up rewards and use that from that standpoint. CRO tends to be, it's a Chinese company with a little different backing from a leadership standpoint, which is where I've been more focused on Voyager because of their stellar leadership team based in the US and Canada. I'm not as familiar with Coin Metro or XCM, so I can't speak logically about them. So,
okay. As I dug into what you've written and YouTube videos of you, along with other information, one of the things that is a limit of Voyager right now is you can't swap one crypto with another in one movement. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no pairs trading is what they're called, which is, let's say, Ethereum to BTC. And the reason why they don't do that today, as Steve's talked about, is because of taxes. Because anytime you swap a pair, you're going to have to pay taxes on that anyways. And so it actually becomes kind of a tax nightmare. It's easier to go to USDC and then go back into, let's say, Ethereum or any of these other ones. So they do not offer pairs trading.
Right. So you can't actually do the same thing. You just have to do it in 2 steps instead of 1.
Yep.
There are 4 YouTube videos of you talking about VGX, all on Alex Moscoli's show called TradeTheChain.com. Do you have other videos on YouTube about VGX?
I don't, no. And I wasn't particularly trying to get into the YouTube business, but Alex invited me on with some of my articles to talk about them. And so I've kind of just the only time I've spent on YouTube has been with those groups. So.
Yeah. And then you have published through Medium 11 articles since October 31st of last year, all on Voyager. How long have you been researching and following this company and token?
Yeah, I actually started with Voyager back in March of 2020. I was a purchaser of VGX in June of 2020. And then actually started writing because I felt like there was a misconception on the value of VGX at the time, and I think it was October. And then if kind of just grown into writing more and more about it. It's probably the most transparent company out there because they are publicly traded. So there's actually financials you can go dig into and research and kind of monthly numbers provided as well. So it's the reason why I've kind of mostly stayed within that track from a writing standpoint.
Sure. How many percentage points has VGX gone up since you published that first article, October 31st of last fall?
So it was trading about 11 to 12 cents. So it's been about a 38 times increase since then. So
that's great. Do you still price target VGX to go to $40 to $50 by the end of 2021?
I haven't updated my pricing model since I wrote the Warp Speed article. At this point, I don't have any reason to change it. I am evaluating it on a regular basis. I think at this point in time, we're kind of in consolidation period until the token swap and the VLP launch. Most of the pricing model was built around the new Voyager loyalty program being kind of launched and out there. It's not there yet. So the utility is less at this point in time than it would be once it's launched. So I'll reevaluate it once it's out there and we get some more kind of data and the pricing metrics. But at this point, I'm not changing it. So,
do we have any idea when the token swap and VLP launch will occur?
As Steve mentioned, I think it was 2 weeks ago, his plan was 6 weeks. So I think everybody's kind of hopeful for the end of April, beginning part of May. Is kind of what the guidance was given from him.
What major events would get in the way of VGX not reaching your targets?
Yeah, I think not reaching it, there's a few things. One is kind of a broader market correction of some kind, which we still believe we're in a bull run at this point in time, at least through the summer and back half of this year. It kind of follows a 4-year cycle. Then you would tend to see a little bit more of a bearish turn into next year. We'll see if that plays out again. So that's kind of one. Second one is kind of slower growth or adoption of the Voyager platform itself. So whether there's issues or reasons why people wouldn't download it and use the app, that would be another reason why it wouldn't do it. Any kind of increased regulation that makes it challenging for the brokerage to operate and do business, and people to adopt crypto could be a concern. Though a lot of things coming out around in Biden's administration are supportive of crypto, there's still those that are anti against it. And then anything else could be things like further increases in supply, which we don't really plan. Somebody planned outside what's already been talked about, things like that. But those would be kind of the main areas.
What are important events that are coming up that are going to boost VGX's price? You mentioned the token swap and VLP launch. Anything else?
Yeah, the main ones are the token swap and the VLP launch. And again, the reason why that is because it increases utility of people, the reason why they should hold it and benefits they get from doing it. So that's the biggest one. And then you have things like crypto to stocks. Steve's mentioned the ability to pair trade crypto into stocks and having that available on the platform. And VGX could be in the center of that facilitation, which could be a big important thing for VGX. Debit card, credit cards. We also have things like launching in Canada and Europe, which are going to be big. It's kind of market expansion. Again, we talk about VGX's value going up with increased user growth. Well, those are huge markets. Canada, not as much. Europe is a huge market for crypto. And so if they get in those markets, those are big growth opportunities.
I've noticed that you use the word we when you talk about them, Voyager.
I think I say that because I'm an investor, and so to me, when you're an investor, you're on the same track as them, and you want them to do well. So,
Voyager offers rewards for keeping your currency on their platform. You actually have spoken to this, but what cryptos besides VGX earn interest for being stored on Voyager?
Yeah, there's actually 24. I looked it up when you sent me the question. There's 24 of them on the platform, and you can go onto the website and look up which ones are there. The most predominant ones are Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC. USDC has the highest percentage, and it kind of goes down from there in terms of each one of the additional coins. VGX, I think today is 5%, and then a lot of them are 3%, 2%, things like that.
So one of the things that this offers me, a person coming rather new to this area, is right now any cryptocurrency that I have is making only what it makes if it goes up, and it loses what it loses when it goes down. Yep. If I have these coins at Voyager, I will make at least a little bit, if not a pretty good amount of interest on up to 24 different coins.
That's correct. And they're paid out in kind. So if you hold 1 Bitcoin on there, then you're going to get I think it's 6.5%, up to 6.5%, I think. Maybe it's up to 7 now with the booster. But yeah, then you'll get that paid out in kind. That's an annual percentage yield, and you'll get paid out every month. So
it's monthly.
It's monthly. Yep. It's divisible. But remember, so let's use USDC for example. It's 9% in March with a booster of 1% if you hold 10,000 VGX tokens. That gets paid out. You essentially divide that by 12 because it's an annualized percentage rate. It gets paid out monthly. So today is interest day. Everybody gets excited when they get the interest paid out at the last of the month. So, and
it's significantly better than anything anyone gets in a bank.
That's correct.
It's perhaps not as safe in some people's minds, perhaps in many people's minds.
Yep.
But it's significantly better interest rates.
Correct. Yep.
Should that investment, the money that one puts on Voyager, really be moved to a wallet?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people say if you don't hold your private keys, it's not your crypto. I would say is a lot of people, you see a lot of examples of people just not knowing how to use the infrastructure of moving to a wallet where they end up losing or losing their passwords. Plenty of examples of that. I actually feel like people are probably sometimes their worst enemy. Unless you're really knowing what you're doing, I think it's actually probably safer to hold it in a brokerage like Voyager or others. Again, I prefer Voyager because they pay interest on it as well. But you are taking some risks because you don't actually have your private keys and you have to move it and things like that. But again, unless you're sophisticated enough to have your own wallet, move it and own it and have the right safeguards in place, you're probably better off anyways. So.
I read an example this morning in online news about a person who had gotten a fake app at Apple, and I think they're suing Apple because this app was a wallet for a well-known company who does not have an app, and they moved over $1 million into that wallet, which was instantly stolen. So
Yep.
yeah, when you're moving cryptocurrencies in many ways at the present time, there's risk there.
There's a lot of risk in it. Absolutely. You bet.
Now, I've heard of the Ethos Universal Wallet. Does that have a special relationship with Voyager so that you can easily store crypto there?
Yeah, the Ethos wallet was actually, the company Ethos was bought by Voyager back in October of 2019. So essentially Voyager owns that. There's been conversations on rebranding that wallet to being the Voyager wallet and then actually allowing you to hold it within your wallet, but yet still earn interest. There's been talk of that. I don't know if it's actually officially on the roadmap, but we'll see what they do with it.
Coinbase is a widely used exchange. Certainly in my experience, and I think in many people's experience, it is the easiest one to use. It's the easiest one to get your money onto. Though I actually have struggled with them along with others. There's just, it's often called, I think, the Wild West. And in some ways it really is. But Coinbase really is pretty darn easy. How is the Voyager app similar to and different from Coinbase?
Sure. So Coinbase is an exchange, and remember, Voyager is a brokerage. And so Coinbase is essentially going to source any of your purchases or sales through their order book on their exchange. And so that's one kind of key difference where Voyager is kind of sourcing across exchanges, trying to find you the best rate. Coinbase does not offer interest. I think maybe it's a small percentage on maybe on USDC, I think, but it's very, very small in comparison to what Voyager does from an interest standpoint. And lastly, just from a pricing standpoint, Coinbase is 1.49% of any dollar coming in gets taken out, and then before you can purchase any crypto. And any examples we've seen, I've seen that I've shared, even research related, is you actually get and own more crypto than if through Voyager with the spread than you would through Coinbase because of the fees. Again, Voyager does have a spread that you pay against, but you're not paying the fee on your dollar amount, so you actually get more crypto through Voyager than you do through Coinbase. And again, you have the bonus of the interest, which makes any differences up pretty fast. So those are kind of the main differences.
As I read through your work, you really seem to research and look at cryptocurrency differently than all of the YouTubers that I've stumbled upon. And I like the way that you talk about it more, because it really does feel like you have looked into not just what trends are on charts, not just what's happening now or what's happening over a period of time, which to me is always susceptible to anything disrupting that. And you've used something that's called Metcalfe's law when you're working with VGX in a very simple way. What is Metcalfe's law and how has it helped you to understand VGX?
Yeah, and I talked about when I started writing, I felt like there was kind of a fundamental gap between what people understood to be the value of VGX and others. And I've kind of used that as a conversation around broader crypto, because I believe that tokens and Bitcoin and others have fundamental value, and really it's how do you analyze that and understand it and talk about it. Because a lot of the data available out there is people talking about price, because that's the most widely updated. It's updated every minute, every hour, every day, and you can actually look at it on a fairly regular basis. And so that's why I started writing. And one thing we have to remember is price is arbitrary, value is fundamental. And I talk about that, and it matters because we have to understand what is fundamentals for a token. And I started writing about it. I used Metcalfe's law as a way to represent user growth and the network effect of tokens and investing. And this Metcalfe's law has been used across not even tech stocks, Facebook and others, and the wider adoption, because as internet companies grow, it's about the value of those companies and the revenue they can generate is from the network of people that are using them. And as they grow exponentially as the connections grow. Same thing happened with Bitcoin. As that adoption has grown, Metcalfe's law has been used very predictably to represent value in good times to purchase Bitcoin as the network and those that are adopting it has grown. And so I've done the same thing on tokens, where one, as example, VGX Cell, those are two examples, ones I've done this on, where kind of predictably shows as the network has grown of those interested using, working together in the communities, it's representing value pretty predictably from that standpoint. So that's how I've used it. It's not a pure Metcalfe's law. I think some people have been critical that, you can't just, not all the users are networked, which they're not. I mean, the big network that grows from this is actually those in the community that are working actively out there, educating, sharing Twitter and things like that. And then you have the broader people that are even just using Voyager. Not every single person is going to benefit from holding VGX, because not every person is going to have the capital and or the use case to do it. And so I apply other kind of factors to the math itself to demonstrate the relationship over time that we think would demonstrate value.
You've already talked about this a bit, but I'm going back to another question about it as well. When I was reading some of your work, I didn't understand one acronym, and that is VLP. What does VLP stand for, and talk about the importance of it for Voyager users?
Yeah, so VLP means the Voyager Loyalty Program, and the importance is because it increases utility on the Voyager platform itself. So by holding VGX, I'm getting more benefits and more use cases for using it and holding it. And as there's more use cases for doing that, it's more, the VGX token will be held by more people on the platform as they engage and use the platform.
Many people come to the cryptocurrency world through Bitcoin. Did you do that?
I did, yeah. My first purchase of Bitcoin back in 2015, and it's been a fun educational journey since to learn about.
Oh, yeah. So compare owning BTC to VGX and your thoughts about each of those in one's portfolio.
Yeah, they're completely different. If you think about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is its own monetary system of a sort, where it's a store of value, almost like a savings account longer term. You hear a lot of people talk about it, it's the digital gold because of its kind of finite supply and things like that. And it's really meant to be more of a monetary network, the digital gold version of the crypto space, in a way that a lot of people have adopted in that way and has grown tremendously. VGX is what I call almost like a poker chip in a casino, but it's like a poker chip in a system, right? It's actually only valuable in the Voyager platform itself. There's really not any other use case other than receiving rewards through the use of the platform. And so as Voyager goes and as adoption grows, that's the value of VGX over time. You'll actually see, I think, a lot of the companies put these out because they are a third leg, I think, of the capital structure, and I think are an important aspect of a company's growth longer term, especially tech companies. So again, completely different use cases, different supply dynamics, different utilities from that standpoint.
Just a few more questions and we'll finish up. Any other points that would be important for one to know about Voyager and VGX?
No, I don't think so. I think, the thing I've talked about Voyager is it's growing on kind of this continual wave of adoption in crypto. And I look at it as a play in kind of a broader macro view as more people adopt crypto. And I think Voyager is probably the best, or one of the best apps out there to use and best experiences, that they'll capture a larger percentage of that market share, people transitioning into the crypto space and owning it. and VGX will be a winner of that because of the utility that the token gives us.
Besides VGX and BTC, what other platforms have you successfully explored?
Yeah, I mean, I've explored probably half a dozen different cryptocurrencies themselves. I don't publish research around them because a lot of that's just for myself. And I've owned different ones throughout the years, but I've been most transparent on VGX just because the numbers are public and it's been the best use case to demonstrate my work. So,
Any others that you'd let us in on that you think are?
no, not at this point. If I get to a point where I feel strong enough to share it, then I will. So
That's great. One of the things that seems sure to me from what you've said and what I've read is that the reason you could do this so well with Voyager and VGX is because it's a publicly traded company. There's information out there. You cannot do that quite as easily with any other one that you've come across.
no, it's harder, and that's where a lot more estimates and assumptions are made, which is where I don't feel as comfortable sharing some of my research around it because it is a lot more personable and based on the estimates I have, and it actually could confuse some people, I think, at times. So it's easier because I actually have points in time and data, real data that I can actually analyze. I don't have to estimate it. So
yeah. Well, thanks a lot. This is really helpful to me, and I hope potentially this will be helpful to other people to understand Voyager and VGX.
sounds good. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Really great deal. And I will buy you a beer, and we're going to sit outside on some nice spring day, and we're going to talk about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I have lots I can share. I've learned a ton over the years, and I love talking about it. So it's fun.
It is fun. And one of the things is that there's only one other person I can do it with, and that's the person that actually talked to me about it last fall and got me interested in it, and I was ready.
Yeah.
And so then I did start buying, and of course, I wish I would have bought a lot more then, but I think people will be saying that for a long time about cryptocurrencies. So.
I do so as well. I think Bitcoin over time, especially in the current environment, becomes much more valuable. And the broader space, I think, continues to grow because the use cases get stronger. So,
yeah. Thanks a lot.
you bet, Bob. Have a good one.
You too.